Welcome back to Celebrity Radio. It's Alex Belfield talking to some of the world's biggest stars and some of my favourite people. And we've got one for you today. A lady who's sold over 70 million records around the world. She's the best-selling female artist in British history, and she's joining us here. Petula Clark, how are you?
Well, thank you. I would have thought Adele must have beaten that by now.
How dare you? She's no Petula Clark.
Well, no, she's not. But no, but I'm not Adele either.
Is it fun being you? I mean, you drive down the motorway today and I switch on this station and there you are singing this song, and then I switch over to the next one and there you are singing that song. It's a remarkable career, isn't it?
Yes, it is actually. I'm very fortunate. You know, I've been blessed with some fantastic songs, and I am also blessed with a voice that's still there, you know, and I don't do anything to help it along. I just open my mouth and it comes out, you know. It just happens. You know, I did a duet with a really fantastic singer recently in France. And, you know, I was a bit of a fan. I thought he was an amazing singer. Anyway, I got to the studio and he arrived late, of course. Well, okay, fine. And then we started recording about 2 hours later because he was warming up for 2 hours. I thought, well, that's strange, you know. Well, I mean, it was great when he finally got to sing. He was brilliant, but there are people who need to do that, who need to go through this whole process to get the voices going. And I feel a bit ashamed because I never do any of that, you know. I have to confess that, you know, when I do concerts, my first two songs are sort of a bit of a warm-up for me, to be honest.
When you sit here now, and ahead of you in the next 2 months, you'll be releasing a brand new album, which comes out in September, and then in October you'll be doing these huge venues, and there you are, centre stage with the pin focus, and you have to deliver. Do you at this point take that as a walk in the park because it's the hits that you've been singing for 50 years, or do you still get nervous that they're judging and they need you to sound like Petula Clark?
It's never a walk in the park. I mean, it's great once I'm on stage and I'm into it and the audience is there and the band is really cooking and you've got great songs. I mean, then it starts feeling sort of like a walk in the park, but it never is quite. You know, you never are absolutely certain that it's going to work.
When I sit opposite someone like you, I look in your eyes and think of the people you've looked at, the greats, the Lennons, the stars of TV. You were part of a generation that we're never, ever going to see again. It's all about getting your private bits out on reality TV these days. You work with real legends. How do you view your life at this point? Is it like watching it back on YouTube for the first time, or do you remember those moments individually one by one?
I can remember them. I have to confess I'm not really very nostalgic. I don't sit around saying, oh, those were the good old days, you know, they really knew how to write songs then, and where have they all gone, all those legends, even though sometimes, if you think about it, it's a little bit true. No, I'm really not like that. I honestly live for today, and there are a lot of wonderful things around today, a lot of great talent. Of course, I was lucky enough to work with some of the great names in show business. But right now I'm looking into your eyes, and that's fine too.
And here we are, 2016, and you're still selling out venues. I guess for any artist, there's no greater compliment to know that they still care, and they're still interested, and they're going to take their well-earned money and pay to see you. That's the ultimate test of time, isn't it?
It is, and I feel very privileged to still be doing what I do and enjoying it. And I've been doing it for many, many years, as you know. I started when I was a wee child, when I was about 5 or 6, and I stopped in the 1970s for a couple of years. But apart from that, I've just been doing it, and. As I said, it's a privilege to still be able to do it.
Let's go back to the beginning. Radio really is possibly the reason you're here, because that's where people fell in love with you, and that's where you learnt your craft.
That's all we had, really. We didn't have television. I did my first radio performance when I was 8. And it was on a radio show for the forces. You know, it was during the war, the Second World War, folks. And it was a show for kids, you know, whose dads or brothers or cousins were out serving in the forces somewhere. And I had an uncle who was, funnily enough, he was in Iraq, would you believe, during the Second World War. Anyway, I went along with 20 other kids, and it was in a theatre which still exists in London called the Criterion, which is right in the middle of Piccadilly Circus. And the BBC were using it because it was and still is an underground theatre. I mean, it's way, way underground. And so it was like a kind of glorified air raid shelter. And so there we were, all us kids, and there was a band, and we did our little rehearsal. Hello, Uncle Dudley, we're fine, blah, blah, blah. And then suddenly there was this huge air raid. I mean, we were in Piccadilly Circus, and the place was shaking, and we had to stop rehearsal. And a lot of the kids were very scared. And I was a London kid, and the producer said to us, would anyone like to come up and say a piece of poetry, sing a song, just to take our minds off what's going on? And nobody else volunteered, so I put my hand up and said, I'll sing a song. So that was my first radio show, and that was the beginning of everything for me, really. So radio has always been very important.
Without getting too deep and spiritual, do you think you're born to do this and you were born to be Petula Clark as we sit here today? Because it seems to me there's a bravery in admitting I want to be the person to stand on that stage, but then being able to do it and form a career out of it is something extraordinary.
Oh, you mustn't forget that I always loved to sing. I'm half Welsh, and my mother was Welsh, and so music was in me. I could hear music all the time, and I still do hear music in my head most of the time. Was I born to do it? I don't know how to do anything else, if that's what you mean. So I guess I was,
Can you ever remember not being famous?
No, I can't, actually. No, I don't know what it is to be famous. I mean, sometimes people around me, we're walking down the street and they notice other people looking at me, but I don't notice it, It's just the way it is.
It's marvellous, though, if you need a table in the centre of London at 8 o'clock at night, isn't it? They'll let you in.
They can be useful sometimes.
I was looking at you last night on the internet and all the people you've worked with and the people you talk about, and there are three names that fascinate me: the Carpenters, John Lennon and Dusty Springfield. These are three names that fascinate me, and of course you got to know them, and in Lennon's case he thought you were the best singer and his favourite. When you're around people like that, how long does it take for that to become normal? Because to most people, to be in the presence of that level of greatness is mind-blowing.
Oh, I've never been blasé about the people that I've worked with, the people I've met. Never. When I first met Fred Astaire, I thought I was going to faint. But the funny thing is that Fred felt the same way about meeting me. Isn't that weird? That's the part of it that I couldn't understand. But, meeting John was wonderful. John Lennon, I mean, although when I met him I was in tears because I was going through a difficult time, and he was so adorable with me. Dusty, I met several times, but I never actually sang with her. I sang with her a few years back after she'd been gone for a long time, but it was an unfinished tape, and I went in and put my voice on it, and so we now have a duet, Dusty and me, but I never actually sang with her while she was still with us. But to me, she was the best. Absolutely, without a doubt.
I wonder about your voice when you stand on stage. What does it take out of you? Is it something now that comes naturally, or is it something that drains you?
No, it doesn't drain me. No, I find the whole experience energizing. Singing is such a joy. I mean, everybody can sing. Come on, some sing better than others. I don't think I'm a great singer. I sing my way. Excuse me. I don't mean the song. In fact, I don't think I've ever sang My Way. Yes, I have. You're not going to tell me you did it with Sinatra as a duet and you'd forgotten about it? No, but I sang it with Claude François. Claude François was a huge French star, and he was the one who first sang My Way in French, because it is a French song. It was called Comme d'habitude. And Paul Anka wrote a lyric in English and gave it to Sinatra. and that was My Way. But I sang My Way with Claude François, in case you're interested.
Wow.
No, but I sing in my own style, and it just comes out that way. And some songs help me to sing that way. Certain songs are great for my voice. Certain songs are not so great, and I don't quite know why.
It's interesting how some fit and some don't. And then we look at you as a package, and the reaction of my father, who is unimpressed by everything I do in my career. But when I told him last night I was coming to interview Petula Clark, he nearly fell on the floor. What's it like, because I'm a deeply unattractive man, what's it like being a sex symbol?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
You, sex symbol.
I don't know how to answer that question. This business, show business, is about seduction anyway. You know, when you go out on stage, you are seducing a few thousand people in some way or another. You know, in my case, you know, I'm not Beyonce. You know, I don't take my clothes off and do all that.
But you were in the day. Do you not see that about yourself? The way my father reacted, seriously, I mean, he just adored you.
Bless his heart. Do give him my love. Well, it just wasn't like that. I don't think Adele is selling sex, although she probably is in her own way. You know, there are all different ways to seduce people. And she is seducing with her voice, with her talent. Hello, remember talent?
Yep.
Talent can be seductive.
And then we spoke earlier of another legend, Frank Sinatra, who you never got to work with. Did you get to meet him?
Oh, yes, and I never sang with him. Oh, and, you know, I met him several times. We had dinner and all that kind of thing, yeah.
I'm amazed by these people. And, of course, one of the defining moments in your career was Las Vegas, the reason I bring it up. And it sort of ended your career for a while because I think it was a period where the glitz and glamour overtook the voice. And you left, didn't you? I mean, you could still be there now. You chose not to be. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, well, you know, I did Vegas on and off for 12 years. You know, on and off meaning I would do 3 weeks in Caesar's Palace, or 3 weeks at the Riviera or wherever, you know. And it was fun. Certainly when I was there, it was fun because I would be at Caesar's, for instance, and then Streisand would be down the road at the Hilton, or Elvis, and Sinatra would be at the Riviera, you know. So it was a special time. It's not like that anymore. You know, Vegas has changed enormously. So, you know, I might go back and do a few nights now and then, but you know, no, it's Cirque du Soleil and Celine Dion, and who was a great singer, and yeah, no, that was very different.
And then we look at you as a person, and what I love about you, I think, the most is that you're a principled person, and you're a person, if you're a friend, you're a loved friend. And there was a moment with Harry Belafonte, a wonderful story. Back in the day, you couldn't put your hand on a black man's arm without controversy, and you had two ways of reacting. You could have edited it out, or you could leave it in and take the flak, and you did. Why did you do that?
Well, you know, it wasn't me who wanted to edit anything out. It was the sponsor. The sponsor saw me put my hand on lovely Harry's arm. And by then, incidentally, Harry and I were really good friends, you know, and we felt very strongly about the song that we were doing together, and it just happened naturally. However, the sponsor was in the sponsor's room next to the control room. This was at NBC in LA. And he went berserk. He said, "I'm not having my star touching a black man's arm," you know. Whoa, whoa. And the director of the show was in trouble, you know. I mean, he said, what am I going to do? So he thought up this idea about doing the song in a different way, where I wouldn't actually be standing next to Harry, but, you know, they would do a camera with stuff and all the rest of it. I thought, well, that's strange. That's not the way we're supposed to do it. But we did it. We did 2 takes like that. And then all the lights went out in the studio. Harry went to his dressing room. I thought he looked a bit strange. I didn't quite know what was going on. My husband, who was the executive producer, and our lawyer, took me by the hand and said, "Come on, we're going downstairs." I said, "What's going on?" So we went downstairs into the basement, and in the basement was this guy eating a sandwich, and he was in charge of all the tapes, everything that was being recorded in the studios. And my lawyer said, "This is Claude Wolfe, executive producer. This is Petula Clark, star of the show. Hi. We want you to erase these 2 takes. Just keep that one." He said, "I can't do that. We have to always keep tapes just in case something goes wrong." And my lawyer said, "This is an order. You erase those tapes." And we watched as he pressed the button and erased the tapes. And that was it. That was it. So they had to put out the one where I touched Harry's arm. And that's what caused all the fuss, And I didn't get it. I had a black musical director for years, but I was English. And I was arriving in LA as a star, because I had all the hit records. However, I was sort of a bit naive. It was right in the middle of the civil rights movement, and there I was suddenly in the middle of all this. And I spoke to Harry Belafonte not very long ago in Ireland for the Amnesty International, and he remembers it, every single second of it. And he said it was a very important moment. But I didn't realize how important it was,
And to think 50 years on, we're still fighting the same battles with race and what's going on in America.
Yeah.
I sometimes do hold my head in shame at this world that we think we've moved on, and we have in many ways. We have iPhones and we have Twitter and Facebook, but we still have fundamental issues where race is one of the biggest issues still in the world.
Of course we do. Things have moved along a bit. We've had a black president in America. The things have changed, but we have to just keep working. We have to, and we have to give everything our love in our work, in our attitude, and whatever we do. That's what else can we do?
And in terms of priorities, it seems to me all through your life, music has come second to family and your children. There are a lot of people in the business who don't do that. Was that always a priority for you to make sure that you kept your life in perspective and the business in perspective? Because it's easy to see how some people make it and some people don't quickly.
Yes, but it's not as easy as all that. I had 2 children very quickly after we got married. I was living in Paris at the time, and then Tony Hatch comes along with a song called Downtown, and there it was. Suddenly, I had #1 in the States, and America was squeamish, "You gotta get here," and all that stuff. So I had all my contracts that were already signed for France, and then I had to go to America, and 2 small children. And I thought, well, I could do this. This is easy. You can have a nanny, and we just organize ourselves. To a certain point, I think we did quite well. I say we because my husband was there to help out too. But it's not easy, and there were compromises all around. I compromised on my career by not being there all the time, which in fact, that's really what you have to do. And I couldn't be there and be with the children all the time. That's 2 full-time jobs. Can't be done.
We see so many who don't make it, the Dusters, Karen Carpenters, even the Amy Winehouses, people of late, who disappoint us because all you want is for them to keep singing.
Yeah.
Have you managed to work out, because if anybody can answer this question, you can, how do you survive the business? Because you have at this point, you're still sane, you're still here, and you're still making wonderful music that people love. How?
That's a very good question. I don't know. I don't know if I can answer that. I never got into drugs. All that stuff never really turned me on. Karen, bless her, she was naive, and she wasn't well guided. And a lot of people, the people you mentioned, they weren't going to listen anyway. Elvis was the same. I saw him several times on stage, and the first time I saw him, he was glorious. He was amazing. And then I saw him again, and it was not so good. And the last time I saw him on stage, and it was not good. I went backstage, and all his yes men were saying, great show, Elvis, and I felt like saying, what? He wasn't. But nobody was going to say that to him. And if anybody had, would he have listened? Probably not. it's a difficult one. You know, this entourage that happens around people. It's I've seen it happen to so many people, and I've never had an entourage, ever. An entourage can make you feel good. You know, they bolster you up, and of course they enjoy it because they're in the limelight, you know,
Yep.
and they're probably getting free booze and free everything else. So, excuse me, but that's kind of what it's about.
Right.
But I never had that.
So now this is the bit where I really upset you, because we get towards the end of the interview and we save the hard questions for the last, and I've been thinking about this for several weeks. Petula Clark's best record. I mean, this is something that's been debated for many years. Colour My World, Couldn't Live Without Your Love, or Downtown. I suppose the only person who can answer what is Petula Clark's best record is Petula Clark. What is it?
Oh no, I can't answer that. I don't know. You know, when we go into a studio, when I went in to make Downtown, we knew it was a good song, and when we finished it, we knew we'd made a good record. We didn't know we'd made a monster record. So, what makes a hit? That's not the question you asked me, but it's probably because I can't answer your question. I don't know. I'm always in love with the new songs, because the new songs are new.
Right.
You know, they're fresh and exciting, and I haven't got bored with them. That's to say, I've never really got bored with any of the Tony Hatch songs, because they were just so great. But my best record, probably you wouldn't even have heard of it.
Yeah, that's sad. The public will always decide what they like the best. It's not for you to decide, is it?
No, but actually, you just made me think about it. I made a record in French called Flashback, which was written for me by Serge Gainsbourg. I don't know if any of you have heard of Serge Gainsbourg.
Didn't you do that sexy one?
We did that sexy one.
Yeah,
yes.
that one that goes on and on and on for about 7 minutes.
That's right. Je t'aime moi non plus.
Je t'aime. I've never lasted 7 minutes. I could do it in the intro. Don't you worry about that. Really? And how did it go?
Oh no, it's nothing like that.
Oh, is it not?
No. Moi je t'aime non plus was made with Jane Birkin, who was another English girl, and he was madly in love with her at the time. No, but this is a fantastic song called Flashback, and I think that's one of the best things I've ever done. But you know, probably none of your listeners would even have heard of it.
Well, they will now. They'll go and look it up. Don't you worry about that. And then the songs you turned down. These are some of my favourite stories, when you find out the songs you said, that will never be a hit, and 30 years later they're still playing it. Are there those you regret saying no thank you to?
Oh, well, I was offered Feelings when it first came out, and when it first came out, it arrived and on my desk, and I said no way.
Just too.
But I have sung it since, and I'm still not crazy about it. You know, it's okay for someone else.
And then we look at another aspect of your career, which was magnificently successful on Broadway and in the West End, musical theatre, which sort of brought you back. Not only brought you back, but opened you up to a new audience that just adored it. Two-part question: the magic of musicals will never go away, will it? And secondly, can you do another musical for us? Because we'd love to see you, and we'd have 8 opportunities a week to do it.
Well, somebody has to ask me. I don't go out looking for work. But be honest with you.
Well, can I ask on behalf of Andrew Lloyd Webber, Sunset Boulevard, we'll get it back in the West End. You can do it.
Well, I think Glenn Close has just done it, hasn't she?
When she turned up.
Well,
it's a difficult sing. All those stairs up and down, it's exhausting.
Yeah, the stairs were tough. Would have to be just the right role. And there is no role. People have said to me, isn't there something that you would really like to do? And there isn't, actually. I thought Sunset was not bad for me, and I enjoyed doing it because it's wonderful to be that unpleasant on stage, because you're somebody else. It was great. I really enjoyed it, and I thought the music was wonderful.
And your reviews for that were stunning. I wonder whether you're the type of artist that would pick up the New York Times on the Monday morning to see what Winchell's writing, or whether you just avoid the good and the bad and get on and do it.
Well, I try not to read reviews, because the good ones you think, oh, well, what do they know? I still get nervous before I go on stage, and I pray. I do some ironing. Yeah, I iron my own clothes, folks, in case you're interested. We do the sound check first. We do all that stuff.
Priorities.
Yes, that's right. And then sort of like about an hour before the show, I go to my dressing room and I like to be alone. And there, I'll do my makeup. My makeup takes 20 minutes. And then I get my clothes out and I iron. I know it sounds weird, but I also feel that if anybody's going to burn my dresses, it better be me. And they're quite fragile, and it's a kind of it calms me down, actually, funnily enough.
It's also really intimate, isn't it? What you're doing, you're making something perfect that is going to be embodying you for that entire performance. I guess there's something in that, isn't there?
Psychologically interesting,
yeah.
Yes.
Freud would have a field day with that, wouldn't he?
Very good.
Yeah, interesting. And then you stand on the edge of the stage and you know it's sold out, as most of these concerts are. You know they're going to love you because they already do. And then you've got to sound like you. What goes through your mind in those moments before the curtain rises?
I'm excited, I'm nervous, and I have a last-minute pray that it's going to work, because you never can be sure that it's going to work. You can go on and do the same thing as you did last night on stage, and it may not work. This time, maybe. A lot of performers have said this, They have this feeling that they'll go on stage, and this time the audience will find out. Yeah. They'll find out that they're not very good. And I've heard this from many, many great, great actors, because one is never, ever sure. I mean, I'm fortunate because I've got wonderful songs, and sometimes I can hide behind the songs. But what's really exciting for me, particularly on this next tour, is I'll be going out doing all those fantastic songs that people know and I'm sure of. I'll be going out and doing songs that they don't know. And that's a turn-on for me. That makes it all very thrilling for me. I like to feel that sense of danger. I really do.
You mentioned prayer a couple of times. Is God important to you? Is this something every day that's around you? And I wonder how you feel about the world today, because when I switch on the news, which I've stopped doing, by the way, because it's too depressing, I can't fathom any of it.
No, I'm with you. I get that. Yes, of course. I think we're living in a very dangerous, scary world. And I think that's why we have to give our very best in everything that we do. I don't want to get into how I feel about God, about religion, but I only know that for me, all I know about myself is that I can sing. I can sometimes touch people. And when I'm on stage, I am touched by the audience. There is a kind of communion that goes on, which is not unlike being in church sometimes. So there is something that's going on, that's for sure. Exactly what it is, I don't know any more than anyone else does. And when people say they know, I say, no, none of us know. But something is going on, and I plug into that as much as I can.
And that feeling at an end of a show when the curtain goes down and they're applauding, and you did it, and you made it, and it was 5 stars, and you're thrilled, and the band's thrilled, and they're thrilled. Is there any way of describing that ovation in your heart? Because really, as a performer, that's all you're waiting for, isn't it?
It's an amazing feeling. You can't describe that. But sometimes I will come off and say, yeah, it was okay. It's off the audience liked it, but I didn't think it was that great. And then other nights I will come off stage and say, that was pretty good, and then somebody close to me will say, not so good tonight. So, that's...
Colour My Well was a bit flat.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
They can hurt these people, can't they?
Well, there's always a bit of truth in it,
Yeah. It's interesting about you and your fans and the relationship with it. An auntie of mine, who I think is about 82, wrote to you when she was, I think, 35, 40, and she'd just gone through a divorce, and she said, I love your records. I'm coming to see you in Nottingham. And you wrote a hand note back to her, and you put a photo in it, signed it, and said, if you're ever in town when I'm in town, show this picture to security, and I'd like to say hello to you. And she did, and you did. I want you to know how much you mean to your fans, and I think that's the testament to anybody's legacy, is those moments, that individual that you touched at a moment when she was low. Petula Clark was willing to see me. Is that important to you, just those very small, not the moments at the Palladium, because we can all see those on YouTube, but the individual moments that nobody will ever know about?
They're very important to me. You know, I can't handwrite back to everybody, you know. But I often do. But I've met so many amazing people at the stage door, so many stories. It's extremely nourishing for me. So don't ever think that it's not important to me. It's very important to me. Singing is a wonderful thing to be able to do. I do feel at times that I can convey something through songs. You know, I'm just a singer, let's face it, you know, and you were talking about the world today. What can I do to help? What can you, what can any of us do? What we can do is go on doing what we do, doing it better, doing it with love. And that's what I do. So I try to convey that in when I'm on stage, in my life, come to that. So how do you put that into a capsule and say that's who I am? I really don't know.
But isn't it wonderful that at my lowest moments I can click Google and put in Subway, and there you come up for 3 minutes and cheer me up. Petula Clark, good luck with the tour. It's happening this autumn, and the new album's out in September. This has been a great honour and thrill. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it. Don't sleep in the subways, your favourite?
It is.
It's mine too.